be honest with you all for a second. I think Hebra's climate is a bit broken. While doing research on Breath of the Wild's weather, I was looking at Hebra's climate, just for fun, and immediately was skeptical of all the claims that I saw. See, every time I've ever been in Hebra, it's been snowing. I don't recall a single instance during my playthrough of Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom where it wasn't doing just that. Yet, if we look at the likelihood of there being weather at all in Hebra, brought to us by Woodle005 on Reddit, it's a 70% chance in general for there to be snow. So that means there's a 30% chance that we don't get snow at all. Despite the fact that I've never seen this area without it snowing, I'm going to say it's just my luck coming into play rather than the game's system on this, however. Yet, a 70% chance that it'll be snowing here, even without my luck, is wild. Is that even meteorologically possible? If it is, how? There's only one way to find out. We gotta dive into it and see if we can solve the problem. We'll start by breaking down the chances of getting any weather conditions in Hebra. The game's internal system has a 20% chance of blue skies, a 10% chance of clouds, a 35% chance of rain, a 35% chance of heavy rain, and a 0% chance of thunderstorms. Given the low temperatures of this region, instead of rain, we see snow in this area. Unless I've done my math wrong, that's a 70% chance of snow occurring in this area. So how likely is that really? This would greatly depend on several factors, but one such factor is the landscape itself. Looking at where we are, we're on a mountain. What's so special about a mountain, you may be asking? Well, weather is more or less likely to form depending on the side of the mountain that we're on. Or, well, depending on the wind direction and side of the mountain, I suppose would be a better way to put it. In meteorology, the wind tends to blow from west to east, or from higher pressure to lower pressures. When it comes to a mountain, well, the wind tends to blow no matter what side we're on, but the type of wind changes depending on where. Typically, a mountain has a windward and a leeward side. The windward side of the mountain is the side where air tends to rise, and where all your wind tends to blow air upwards. This air normally cools with height. As the air ascends, condensation occurs and results in precipitation on this side of the mountain. Why does this happen? Let's work with an example, and a drawing to explain this concept. Keep in mind, I'm not an artist, so you're going to have to forgive the rough schematic. Say that we have a parcel of air at a specific temperature. I'm going to choose a value in Celsius, say 20 degrees, and the dew point temperature is 5. As this parcel of air rises, it slowly loses heat, decreasing in temperature at a rate of 9.8 degrees Celsius per kilometer, assuming the air parcel is entirely dry for the duration of its rising. While that's not entirely practical, as no air parcel is usually completely devoid of moisture, the parcel will still rise until the temperature of the parcel is equal to the dew point temperature of the atmosphere. It's at this point that the precipitation occurs, as the parcel is saturated and needs to let go of the moisture, so it does just that. At this stage, the parcel may continue to rise at a lower rate, which varies depending on how much moisture there is in the parcel and the conditions surrounding it. Usually we estimate this value to be around 5 degrees Celsius per kilometer, but that's not exactly a static value. It tends to fluctuate depending on the conditions. Eventually, this air parcel makes its way up to the top of the mountain and to the leeward side of it. At this stage, the parcel is devoid of most of its moisture, though some may still remain. If there's anything left, it'll be significantly less than it was before. This air parcel will start to descend on the leeward side. As it does this, it tends to increase in temperature, moving further away from the dew point temperature. While moisture may still be in this air parcel, as the temperature increases, it's going to take more moisture than what is currently present to result in saturation, leaving the leeward side with less moisture and generally drier conditions. When looking at the Hebra Mountains, you might be noticing the same problem I did. This weather system doesn't take the leeward side of the mountain into account at all. It's a blanket 70% chance of snow, no matter where you are. Granted, whether it's heavy or not plays a part, but overall there doesn't seem to be a windward and leeward side of the Hebra region. It seems to snow wherever it wants, whenever it wants. Why is it like this? Truth be told, I suspect this is because game developers aren't meteorologists, for one thing. I don't think they're necessarily paying attention to how weather works specifically in mountainous regions all the time. In fact, I've rarely found a game that does take such things into account. The second likely explanation is that programming such a thing would be a bit complicated in a game that's already technologically complex as it stands. I can't imagine the developers taking the time to try and program this detail into a game when it wouldn't even be noticed by nearly anyone. Well, except me, of course, but I'm decidedly the exception, not the rule. I'm kinda used to that by now. However, even if we take out the whole leeward mountainside aspect of this, the weather is still confusing. Why is it snowing over this region so much? What is so different about this place than, say, Central Hyrule or the Lanayru region? I think the programmers did actually have a sense of how mountains work, although they didn't program it to be exactly how it works in the real world. The Hebra region is generally one of the wetter ones in Hyrule. In fact, only 2 other regions come close to having precipitation as consistently as Hebra does: the Gerudo Highlands and Mount Lanayru. The Gerudo Highlands, known for its snow, has a 40% chance of rain and a 35% chance of heavy rain. Well, since temperatures are lower here, this falls as snow. You get the idea. Mount Lanayru, similar to the Gerudo Highlands, is also cold enough for it to snow. It has a 20% chance of snow and a 50% chance of heavy snow. Okay, so what? Well, look at how these areas are structured. It's similar to the Hebra region. The lines we see on the map of Hyrule indicate where the elevation is equal. These lines can show us the changes in altitude, the shape of the land, and how steep it is. If these lines are closer together, this indicates a sharp increase in altitude rather quickly. If we look at these 3 regions, I'd argue they're all steep, with many elevation changes. What exactly does that mean? It means topographically, we're dealing with mountains. If we travel to these places, we can see that, yep, they're all mountainous regions. But if all of these places are mountains, then what does that tell us? It tells us that the game developers kind of understand how weather works on a mountain. The problem is that they're all programmed to be like the windward side of the mountain instead of treating a mountain like a windward and a leeward side. In the real world, yes, absolutely, a mountain would have more precipitation occurring, but only on one side of the mountain, not necessarily the other. A good example of this in the real world is the city of Juneau, Alaska. If you've ever been there, whether it be via land, sea, or air, you'll likely recall it raining at some point during your visit. There's a few reasons for it, but one of them is because Juneau sits on the windward side of a mountain range. In this area, you'll find the Tongass National Forest, a temperate rainforest with various flora and fauna. I'm pretty sure you all know that to be considered a rainforest, rain has to kind of occur there, so it definitely does do just that. Juneau's proximity to the mountains, alongside its proximity to the ocean, allows for more precipitation to fall in this general area. Fun fact about Juneau, it receives over 57 inches of precipitation yearly at the airport, but if you can believe it, it receives nearly 90 inches of precipitation in its downtown area. It's kinda wild, let me tell ya. Anyways, back to Breath of the Wild. It seems that the developers realized that mountains frequently involve greater amounts of precipitation, given the way they've programmed these 3 areas as being the most likely to receive it out of all the others in the game. They all have a 70 to 75% chance of snow occurring. Yet for some reason, they really said, yeah, that means the entire mountain has more precipitation. No, that's not how mountains work. If they really wanted to be meteorologically accurate, then they would have had one side of the mountain be drier than the other, but that's not what they decided to do. I mean, I know it would have been difficult to program, but come on, it would have been fun! That begs the question, why did the developers choose to go down this route in particular? Why did they choose, hey, mountains are wet versus, hey, mountains are dry? I think this may have something to do with the way people perceive the weather around mountains. While we do have some cities in mountains that are dry due to where they are, there are also several with sizable populations that receive a good amount of precipitation. One great example of this is the city of Seattle, Washington. It's on the windward side of a mountain, and does receive a good amount of precipitation from it. Although ironically, it's far from being the wettest city in the United States of America. It doesn't even crack the top 50 wettest cities in the nation. However, it's gained its reputation for being wet because it does rain more frequently due to where it sits. On the other hand, you have cities like Denver, Colorado, which sits on the leeward side of a mountain, so it's relatively dry compared to other places. In fact, it has over 300 sunny days a year. Depending on who you are and where you've been, your experience can be quite different when it comes to mountains. Well, I won't pretend to know what experience the developers of the game have with mountains and their weather. I can respect that they chose one direction to go with the weather. Would I have preferred both? Well, of course I would have. I'm a meteorologist. But you know what? Given that game's struggle with weather, especially with mountains, I'll say this is a step in the right direction. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more content like this where I talk about the weather and climate in video games, be sure to subscribe. I have more on the docket for you that I can't wait to share. I will see you all in the next one. Have a good day, everybody.